Good morning. Good morning. I am Manila Chan. That over there is Ted Rall. You are tuned in to the Ted Manila Information Show, or just TMI for short, where we bring you way too much information. Anything from news, politics, lifestyle, culture, fad diets, fires, ocean water rising, and not being able to put out fires. Anything and everything goes because we believe you can never have too much information. If you are looking for that straight-laced, button-down, morning news program, this one is not going to be for you. So we're going to, even though there's no FCC here, well, that's why we are giving you this warning, because there is no FCC here. So we cannot protect your virgin ears, is all I'll say. All the stuff that you want to hear about, like breaking news, and then random stuff you didn't know that you needed to know. We're going to tell you all about it and then laugh along the way. We are live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So please be sure to like and follow this show. If you are on YouTube, I implore you, if you're watching and have yet to hit that subscribe button, please click that little red button so you can help us hit the target of I think it's 500 subs before we can get monetized, and then some other metrics as well. But we are still a new show. We're about a little over 2 months old at this time, and we need to continue growing so we can make this a real thing. And of course, our rumblers, our steadfast listeners there that have followed us from when we got deplatformed a couple months ago. We appreciate you. If you are in any position to subscribe there, you can throw in $5 a month to become a paid monthly subscriber to help us out. So, with enough momentum, enough growth, Ted and I and producer Robbie might be able to actually make a living from this. Maybe.
And more importantly, the show will go on.
That's so that way the show can, because Ted, I know in show business, they're like, the show must go on. Well,
not always.
The Manila, the Ted, and the Robbie must eat also.
Or there will be no show.
So the show will not go on.
Yeah, the show will end. The show will die a dog's death.
So there you go. Good. Good news. Our Twitter is also live. So welcome, Twitterverse. This is the TMI Show, and it is
about did it work?
Start. Yeah, it's working.
First time.
Welcome, Xers, Twitterers,
tweeters,
tweets,
twats.
Tweeters? No, that's something else, Ted.
Oh, okay, sorry.
At any rate, the TMI Show starts now.
I suppose we should be off to the headlines. President-elect Donald Trump is scheduled, or if we were in England, we would say scheduled, to be sentenced today for his criminal conviction from those hush money payments paid to Stormy Daniels, the porn star, a case that for a time overshadowed Trump's attempt to retake the White House. The Supreme Court paved the way yesterday at for the 9:30 Eastern Time sentencing in New York State Court in Manhattan. That means it's probably already happened, unless there's been a bunch of court delays, which, it is the New York City court, so that's possible. The Supreme Court rejected Trump's last-minute request to stop the sentencing just 10 days before his inauguration. Justice Juan Merchan, who oversaw Trump's 6-week trial last year, has said that he doesn't plan to send Trump to the Hooskow or to charge him any money, but by granting him an unconditional discharge, there will be a permanent judgment of guilt on Trump's permanent record that will follow him all the way into high school and beyond.
Yes, this will go on your permanent record.
Which I know he's quivering and shaking in his his penny loafers. Trump, 78 years old, pled not guilty. However, he is expected, and I guess this already happened just now, was expected to appear virtually at the hearing. Whenever someone says that, I imagine him like sort of floating like a shade in and out of the wall, but I think it was Zoom. The trial played out against the extraordinary backdrop of Trump's campaign to retake the White House. And it's the culmination of the first ever criminal case brought against any American president, past, present, or future. Well, there could be future. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, Democrat, charged Trump, a Republican, in March of 2023 with 34 counts of falsifying business records to cover up his former lawyer, Michael Cohen's $130,000 payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels for her silence, which I guess he should have paid more because he didn't get that silence, before the 2016 election about a sexual encounter she said she had with Trump, and well, we know that happened. And Trump denied it, but yeah. Anyway, a panel of judges on the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, in a ruling last night, denied an effort to block the release of special counsel Jack Smith's final report on his 2 investigations into Trump. Judge Eileen Cannon, who dismissed Trump's classified docs case, temporarily blocked the report's release on Tuesday, while the matter was considered by the 11th Circuit. The 11th Circuit, in its own decision, declined to immediately overturn Cannon's temporary injunction, instead ruling that the DOJ, the Justice Department, can file a separate appeal if they want to release the report earlier than this coming Sunday. That's when Cannon's temporary injunction expires, because, you know,
it's Friday.
Temporary. It's temporary. So it's Friday, not so Friday for Donald Trump. He's obviously embarrassed by this. He's not psyched about it.
You really think so, Ted? Well, look, first, we have to establish that I think you and I both, I mean, we disagree on a lot of things, but this is one of the things that we totally agree on, is that, you know, the whole case being brought to begin with was a bunch of hooey, because making somebody, or not making, but having somebody sign an NDAA, a non-disclosure agreement, is not illegal I would say in most states, and then paying people to stay hush, at least in New York
Now,
State.
An NDAA is a giant military bill, the National Defense Authorization.
Sorry, non-disclosure agreement.
NDA,
just an NDA.
Just 1A.
Just 1A, sorry. I kept going with the A's. That was too many. Just an NDA.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not illegal in New York State. I mean, I don't live in New York, so I don't know.
No, it's not illegal. It's not illegal, and
it's not illegal to pay them.
The theory of the case, for people who weren't following this or may have forgotten because they have lives, was that basically Bragg said, because there was an election, this happened in the days before the 2016 election, because basically he was campaigning, that this expense, though not illegal in any way, shape, or form, should have been declared a campaign finance expense. It's kind of like a technicality, in the same way that they went after, Capone for not paying taxes. Well, he couldn't pay taxes, even if he wanted to, because if he declared that how he was earning his money, he was going to reveal the whole nature of his operation. It's not like Donald Trump cared about, the wanted to violate campaign finance law, or that he was misappropriating campaign funds. He was spending his own money on this. He just didn't want anyone to find out, right? So it's kind of like Elliot Spitzer.
Probably, especially Melania.
I mean, that's the whole point of a hush money payment, is that you don't want anyone to find out.
Right.
That's the point.
Well, then we also, I mean, look, what happened with his lawyer, with douchebag Michael Cohen, who, I mean, he's the one, you cannot in any way, shape, or form imagine that Donald Trump puts in a ledger, hush money. Oh no, we got to erase that. We got to put it as campaign expenses,
business expenses,
whatever expense. But Michael Cohen put that in there. Michael Cohen put that in there. He was in charge of doing that. And also, it's bullshit that Alvin Bragg 34 times, because it was each time the payment was I guess it was trickled out to her. It wasn't like a lump sum. Maybe?
No. It was a single lump sum. The way it worked was actually that
it was the same charge though.
Michael Cohen fronted the money, and then and then Donald paid him back later. But it was in a single.
But it was 34 charges of the same thing over and over and over.
It's sort of like when, and they do this with everyone, right? They just lard up everyone's charges, and they shouldn't be allowed to do this.
It's like when you're back in the motherland of California, we have all of those high-speed chases, those car chases, right?
Yes. Then
it's always televised.
They nail you for speeding, right?
For speeding, for every red light that's run, and just everything. So
it's exactly like that. It's like if you and I rob a bank, Manila. We're going to be charged. Not only, I mean, they should just really nail us for bank robbery, or let's say we kill the guard for shooting the guard. but like they're going to get us for like, parking illegally at the hydrant while we were out, just speeding in the car, reckless driving.
However many workers and customers are in the bank, if we're holding a gun, then technically we're threatening those 30 people also.
Maybe it's terrorism because they were scared.
That's basically what Alvin Bragg did here. It was like it revolves around the one lump sum, as Ted pointed out, the one lump sum, and then all the little technical things related to that one lump sum. So it's not like he gave him 34 payments.
I think I could live with this a little better if it had just been one count. I think I might have been able to be like, okay, well, it's a technicality, but at least they didn't. It is true. They didn't lard it up. I hate it when they lard it up like that. It's like it's just bullshit. It's like charge him with the one thing. They make it, and everybody's like 34 counts. All the Trump-hating Democrats always say that, like 30. I mean that makes it sound like it was just like this pattern of he did this all the time. He was like
he was paying her off every time,
falsifying his records 34 times. Also makes it sound, because it's a violation of campaign finance law, that he was like embezzling money out of his campaign or something. It's like no, that didn't happen. I mean, it's just like play it straight, right? I mean, you're the DA, you're the law. You're supposed to set the example for playing it straight. That's what the law is about. So
but it's also fair, as you pointed out yesterday, that this also, I mean, put aside this bullshit 34. Let's call it, the additional 33 counts that Alvin Bragg won and brought on Donald Trump. You pointed this out yesterday, and I think it's fair that that they're going to sentence him anyway, even if it's just for show, because it's virtual. And Merchan, despite all his own problems, right, like with his daughter working for the DNC, and
that's true, that's gross,
this and that, like all kinds of stuff that's just wrong with this case. At the same time, it kind of shows that supposedly nobody's above the law. But then if this was anybody else, Ted, when Merchan would be sentencing, if this was Joe Schmo, he would be, first of all, he'd be compelled to show up in person, number one. Number two, he would get a real actual sentence, whatever it may be, like, 6 months behind bars.
Yeah, it'd be something.
Clink. It'd be something. This and this is just for show to go on Donald Trump's permanent record. And boy, is his mom going to be pissed.
What the fuck is a suspended? I mean, like suspended sentence. It's just basically like, we're just not punishing you. A suspended sentence.
But it's going up. What is the permanent record? What is the permanent record? When you're a grown up and not in high school, what is?
And when you're 78, you're 78 years old. I think once you scoot by 75, you should be past the permanent record period. You should be beyond that. And this will follow you on your permanent record. They would follow you the rest of your extremely short life at this point.
What's happening? Is he applying to grad school next, or like, and this is going to follow him there, and Columbia is going to be like, oh, I see you got a suspended sentence here. What was that for, sir?
We can't have this. We can't have this criminal, this business records felon. Yeah.
So stupid.
I mean, it's also like, I mean, I've said this before a million times on my other show with Scott, the DMZ show. Like, if the Democrats wanted to go after Donald Trump, why didn't they impeach him and fuck him for emoluments? Like, he was guilty as shit on emoluments. He's literally broadcasting like, I'm going to continue to run like my hotels. I'm going to charge the government exorbitant rates for government officials and foreign officials to stay at my hotels. I mean, to have access to me, they're going to have to spend like $1,400 a night to stay at my hotel. That's emoluments. The founding fathers put it in the Constitution. It's like dead to rights. They had him dead to rights. The only thing I can think of, there's only two possible explanations. They might both be true. A, Democrats are stupid.
Right.
B, they do it too, or they want the right to do it too. That's it. There's only two possibilities.
Totally. Look, hush money payments, I promise you, I can guarantee. I don't have evidence.
Maybe it's the multi-syllabic problem that got to them. They were worried that no one could pronounce emoluments.
Well, look, hush money, I guarantee you. I don't have any evidence of it, but I can guarantee if I go looking for it, I would find it, that Democrats also have violated many NDAs, have doled out hush money. If we go digging, I can almost guarantee you that half the people on Capitol Hill are guilty of some hush money payments.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's probably right. Like Matt Gaetz, for example, probably should have. Matt Gaetz probably should have paid more hush money.
Yeah, look, like the Democrats. If we go looking at half the Democrats on the Hill, I'm sure we can find some sort of hush money payment. So this is just like low hanging fruit, and it happened to stick because you had douchebag Michael Avenatti. Let's not forget him, who now is also a convicted criminal and behind bars himself.
Yeah, he's in jail, right?
Yeah, he's behind bars, and he was the guy that
stole Stormy Daniels' money. No, yeah, right, Stormy Daniels.
Yes, that's exactly it. He represented her. He went on all the mainstream media channels. Let's not forget this, okay? He went on all the mainstream media channels, and at some point, he got a CNN contract to be a contributor, and they were ponying him up to say how great and wonderful he is, that he should maybe consider running for president.
I remember that. He was the true hero.
Wow. That's all I can say. That dude, yeah, he stole all this hush money. Like everything we're talking about here has all circled back to douchebag Michael Avenatti. Like, why, Ted, as a baseline, did MSNBC, CNN, all the the left-leaning mainstream media, as a baseline, you have to know that there's a little bit of shadiness there to begin with. Why? Because Michael Avenatti is a lawyer. He's a New York lawyer. That's a baseline. Hold on. That's a baseline. But hold on. Hear me out. Not only is the baseline that he's a lawyer representing a porn star.
Well, I happen to be a huge... I like Stormy Daniels. I think she's like awesome.
No, I don't mind her at all. I'm just saying.
Work, but
generally speaking, lawyer representing a porn star, not like she was raped or something horrible happened to her, because I'm all for like good on you, girl. You want to be a porn star, be a porn star. You want to be a stripper, be a stripper. I don't care.
And she's not just a porn star. She's an advocate for the adult working industry. She's helped organize them to have better working conditions. She's kind of like a union head.
Yeah, I'm not against her at all. But I'm saying Michael Avenatti, just as a baseline, think of it just top level, just top line. Think of this: he's a lawyer, a New York lawyer representing a porn star, in a hush money case. You're going to pony that guy up. You're going to pony that guy up to be the next president, or at least the nominee for the Democrats.
The Democrats have fallen for
what?
Democrats fell throughout this whole thing for the ultimate, the enemy of my enemy is my friend thing. And that's all such a fallacy. Such a fallacy.
So,
I'm an editorial cartoonist, and I know that in many controversies between two sides, both sides are wrong. You have to be able to see that if you have any brains. All right, we have
it's coming.
We've got news to get
coming through now. Hold on, the breaking news. So Merchon declined to sentence Trump. Trump sentenced without penalty.
Of course, we knew that.
So there it is.
We knew that was coming. All right. Well, all right. Congratulations, President.
Yeah, on your permanent record, Donald. Donnie.
It is on the permanent record. So
Donnie,
he now he's never going to get into that exclusive junior high school that he was hoping to get into. Anyway, the Supreme Court is set to hear
health plan price transparency.
Sorry. The Supreme Court is set to hear oral arguments today in a case that could determine the fate of TikTok here in the U.S. At issue is a law that requires ByteDance, which is the parent company of TikTok, to sell off its stake in the app or face a ban by January 19th. TikTok, with more than 170 million U.S. users, is asking the court to block the enforcement of the law, citing the First Amendment. Biden's administration says that the law is necessary to address national security risks that have never been explained by anyone, supposedly posed by ByteDance's potential ties to the Chinese government. TikTok said that it could shut down by January 19th unless SCOTUS intervenes. Trump filed a brief last month, however, asking the court to kick the can down the road a little bit to give them his new administration time to try to negotiate a political resolution. That's a reversal from previous attempts that he undertook to ban TikTok back during his first
Right.
term. Separately, ByteDance appears to be preparing for a potential ban of TikTok by promoting its other app, Lemon 8, encouraging users to migrate over to Lemon 8, whatever Lemon 8 is, as a contingency plan. Also worth noting is that there are reports this morning that Kevin O'Leary, the guy from Shark Tank, and
Yes.
several other investors have, they claim they have enough money to buy TikTok in case
Really?
a sale is forced by January 19th. I don't know if they'd be able to. I mean, having worked in mergers and acquisitions, 9 days is a very tight timeline, even if they decided to try to sell it off right now. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's rough.
9
You'd have to
days.
come up with a
Well,
very convoluted escrow
But I thought
situation.
TikTok is saying here, like, we would rather shut it down and have you all go to Lemonade, I think is what, it's trying to, but that's, they should have just called it TikTok 2. Just like,
Right. TikTok.
we're not the same. TikTok part 2. I don't know. Lemon 8 with the number 8. Lemon 8 is what they're urging people to go to. By the way, we're looking at C-SPAN's live coverage of this so that we're seeing, I guess Justice Sotomayor was speaking the most here just now to TikTok's attorneys. But it seems like TikTok just would rather like drop kick that thing out the door than rather, sell it to American ownership. There's Noel Francisco, attorney for TikTok, that's talking there. And Ted, this is like such a thing that, okay, check this out. This woman sets the case as to why she's pro TikTok and so many people are. And I just wanted to play her soundbite real quick. I thought it was worth listening to.
I'll keep you updated.
Okay. So she flew to Washington, D.C. She's here. She's outside at this very moment, picketing the Supreme Court. This video was taken, I guess, presumably last night, 8 hours ago.
We flew to DC because tomorrow the Supreme Court is hearing the argument for the TikTok ban. Why did we spend our own money to be up?
Why the video's not moving, I don't know, but there we go.
Court is hearing the argument for the TikTok ban. Why did we spend our own money to be up here? Because TikTok is worth fighting for, and our stories deserve to be told. There are 170 million Americans on this app that love it and use it every day. There's also 7 million small businesses that are thriving, including my own. 98% of my sales come from this app, and my business won't survive without it. And it's not for lack of trying on other sites. It is what is unique about TikTok that allows my business to thrive. The algorithm is interest specific, and that allows small businesses like mine to be found. So tomorrow we are going to be outside the Supreme Court talking to anyone and everyone who is willing to hear our stories.
So again, this is, how I just said 2 minutes ago, both sides in a controversy can be wrong. Okay, so let's just stipulate that everything she just said is true. By the way, I find that whole interest-specific algorithm thing very interesting. I don't know
anything about that.
But let me just say that I hadn't heard that before, and so that is cool if true. But okay, who cares? I mean, that's not an issue. Lots of people make money off it. A lot of people made money out of being part of the Gambino crime family too. I mean, that's a stupid argument. We enjoy it. We like it. We use it. We make money off of it. That's dumb. That's not an argument. The argument really is, if the government is accusing TikTok of being a national security risk. If that's true, they should prove it and they should explain it to us. And they have never done that. So the real principle here is you've accused a foreign entity of posing a threat to the American people, then put up or shut up. That's our system. When you accuse someone of something, you have to prove that you have to show your evidence. They've never done that. For me, it begins and ends there. Now, and if they did that,
that's language I understand, Ted. I don't know anything about the algorithm stuff.
If the government proves that, they're out to get us, and that, they're going to somehow, there's truly nefarious things going on here, then I'd be like, I don't care that 170 million people are going to lose it. Who cares? That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
That's not the argument, right?
No, it's not. It's just not important. All right, let's keep going.
Totally unimportant.
All right. Devastating fires in Southern California, which is going to be the topic of our show today, continue unabated, including a number of blazes that are tearing through prominent Los Angeles neighborhoods. I'm like personally indirectly connected to 5 people losing their homes. In other words, friends of friends who have lost their houses already. And actually, sorry, I should say one person I know actually did lose his house yesterday in the Hollywood Hills, including a number of blazes tearing through prominent LA neighborhoods. At least 10 people have been killed. You know it's got to be more. And nearly 180,000 people have been ordered to evacuate. The biggest blaze, the Palisades fire, destroyed thousands of structures in affluent coastal neighborhoods between Malibu and Santa Monica, and was just 6% contained as of this morning. On the east side of the city, the Eaton fire is also completely 100% uncontained, though growth had significantly slowed. High gusty winds, and particularly the Santa Ana winds that sweep westward off the desert, the high Sierra toward the coast, carried flaming embers for many miles, raising the risk of new fires across the city. Conditions are expected to improve today, but persist into the weekend. In fact, the winds are supposed to pick up. They're forecast to pick up over the weekend. The fires could become the costliest in U.S. history. Early estimates of $20 billion of insured losses, $50 billion in economic impact. Obviously, it's way too early to know the details of that. These are just completely guesstimates, not even back of the envelope, pulling these numbers out of their asses. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that, so we should probably save our commentary on that. Venezuela has briefly arrested the opposition leader just ahead of the inauguration of Nicolas Maduro. Forces loyal to the Venezuelan government detained opposition leader Maria Corina Machado as she left a rally in Caracas.
No, Machado's right.
Machado. Yesterday, just a day before President Nicolas Maduro was set to begin his 3rd term. I think he's already been inaugurated. She was released just hours later. Machado had been in hiding for over 100 days, but he came out of his hidey hole to galvanize protesters, risking their lives to demonstrate against the autocratic government that the West says is illegitimate. Despite soldiers loyal to the government manning checkpoints across the capital, thousands of citizens marched in response to the opposition's calls for resistance. Moments before her motorcycle convoy came under gunfire, Machado led a crowd of supporters chanting, "We are not afraid, nor are we particularly intelligent." Her short detention could lead to further protests, but Maduro is determined to retain power for another 6 years and has been sworn in. And the government says it will also arrest Edmundo Gonzalez, the man who some so-called independent audits show won last year's election, if he attempts to return from exile in the Dominican Republic, which he said he was going to do today. The thing about Venezuela is who knows anything, right? I mean, after the U.S. government repeatedly tried to overthrow the government of Hugo Chavez, and there's no question that he was popular and won legitimately, you can't really believe anything that the U.S. government or its pet media outlets have to say about this.
Absolutely.
But but we do say that certainly the election results are highly disputed. That's fair to say.
Yeah. So that's something we'll leave to the experts, because there are experts on one side that say they witnessed and the elections were free and fair, and then others that say, oh no, Machado's guy Gonzalez won. And so okay, this is not my area of expertise. But there were crowds from both sides. Let's make no mistake, Ted, there are a lot of people that actually support Maduro. So
yeah, no, there's no question. I mean, seriously, this is one of those, I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, she's her side of it though is definitely U.S. backed. They are. I know that much. They're
sure. This is
they're on the
same CIA backed, Freedom House. Oh,
for sure. They're the Juan Guaido side. That's all.
Yeah, that's like team. Yeah, that's like team. Maidan. Kind of people. All right. For the first time in 2 years, Lebanon has a president. It took 2 rounds of voting yesterday, but in the end, the country's parliament tapped Army Chief Joseph Aoun, the 60-year-old career soldier. Headed the army since 2017. He kept his troops out of the recent and devastating 14-month war between Israel and Hezbollah, the country's most powerful armed group. Aoun is a Maronite Christian, a requirement for the presidency in the delicate power-sharing arrangement between Lebanon's Christian, Sunni, and Shia communities. That's in the Lebanese constitution. A lot of countries actually have these kind of arrangements in their constitutions when they have a lot of religious diversity or ethnic diversity. Iran, for example, sets aside a certain number of seats in its parliament for Jewish, Christian, and other representatives. There's, I think, more Jews in the parliament in Iran than there are in the United States. Anyway, among the candidates vying for the job, Aoun enjoyed strong support from the United States and from Saudi Arabia, two key external power brokers. His selection suggests that Hezbollah, badly weakened by the war with Israel, not to mention those pages that blew them all up, and unable to win support for its own preferred candidate, has lost some of its clout. With Lebanon mired in the worst economic crisis in its history, which is saying a lot, Aoun must name a prime minister capable of carrying out the difficult reforms that are necessary to unlock funding from external donors and creditors. He also has to oversee and work to extend the current 60-day ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. That expires on January 27th, and we'll see what happens there, because Trump will have been president there for a week, and I'm sure that Israel, the current Israel situation, is job one for him on foreign policy.
No, I think it's going to be Ukraine.
Tied.
You think it's a tie? Well,
it's a tie.
We'll see it. Yeah, but
I mean,
let me
Ukraine
just say
sure,
that,
but...
Ted, I mean, look, when somebody else wins, like name any country, right? People react like this, and like not because they're having baklava. Although I wish we did that. Like, here's some baklava, our candidate won. But people actually celebrate.
What I want is the Taiwanese style or Mexican style corruption, where they buy your vote like with pots and pans and stuff. Like, I need a new coffee maker, and
Do they give you They give you household items?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I'm just saying the citizens of Lebanon are doing this. Like, yeah, please have some baklava. Here you go. And we don't do that in the U.S. I'm just saying, like, that'd be really nice.
Baklava is more than we get. We don't get anything in our.
I know. I'll
get a
take
stupid
some baklava,
sticker,
man. Like, give me some baklava. Keep your stupid sticker.
Yeah,
give me some baklava.
Yeah, take the sticker and shove it.
Yeah. All right, let's leave that there. We got our guest, I see, waiting in the tall trees. Let's hit the jaws and get to our main topic, which now I'm thinking baklava.
It makes me, I'm getting hungry here. All right, I haven't had anything to eat today. All right, like many Americans, Manila and I have deep ties to Los Angeles. Manila grew up in Metro LA and still considers herself a Californian, as everyone who listens to the show is well aware. I was a talk show host at KFI AM 640 Los Angeles for many years, and also the staff cartoonist at the Los Angeles Times, also for many years. So we're going to talk about the long-term repercussions of the wildfires that continue to scorch the nation's biggest city. This is not by any means over. As the drought continues and the climate continues to change in a place that really never had any water resources to begin with, can we adapt, or more accurately, can Los Angeles and California adapt? Or is it time to consider forcible population shifts away from California? Should the U.S. government assist Californians who lose multi-million-dollar homes but can't get any insurance? How do we define a tipping point after which a place is really no longer habitable? We're going to be joined today by Dr. Reese Halter, one of my favorite guests. He's an award-winning broadcaster, distinguished conservation biologist, and an author. His latest book is called Generation Z Emergency. Follow Dr. Reese on Twitter, or now X, at Relentless Reese, that's REESE, and on his website, drreese.com. Dr. Halter, as always, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, Dr. Reese.
Hey, how are you, baklava?
Happy birthday.
Thank you, and baklava are bees, by the way. That's honey. Now, on to the matter at hand, which is a nightmare. I saw last night President Biden said that the feds would be covering the 150 billion estimated damage. There's over 11,000 structures that have been done in. There are two raging of the 6 fires. The Eaton fire and the Palisade fires, by the way, are anything but contained. They're both well under 10% contained. This is a collision of You couldn't have, I don't think you could have imagined that the LA basin would be in severe drought. So what drives this are two things. First of all, we have the Great Basin Desert, which is a state behind California. And the high pressure system that forms over the Great Basin it has been exacerbated by the temperature difference between the Great Basin Desert and the Southern California temperatures. So you got a temperature gradient there. You've got this massive high swirling around like a toilet bowl in a way. And the winds that were driven over the Sierra, as they come over the Sierra and they sink, the air is compressed. As it's compressed, it heats up, and the wind has to exit. Southern California, as many listeners will know, has canyons, and the wind just pours through these canyons. I'm told there were estimates of 100-mile-an-hour winds. So we have that. We have extreme drying. The relative humidity was in the order of less than 5%. Last year, there were a couple of heavy rains, meaning that the coastal sage scrub ecosystem where most people live greened up. There was a lot of fuel. And what people need to understand is because this ecosystem has evolved around both fire and drought, the leaves are coated in oils to conserve water loss, but those oils are highly volatile. So when fire comes in, which it did, kaboom! And it's these canyons. This is like a dragon exhaling fire. I have never in 35 years of covering fires around the world seen lifeguard stands on the other side of highways, not surrounded by any vegetation at all,
Right.
in giant piles of ash.
And these are wide beaches, right? For people who haven't been there, not all, it's not a uniform, but a lot of these beaches are very wide, right? Like you walk, you get off you cross the street from where there are buildings, then it's a wide street, then you walk before you get to the water. It's not like it's a narrow 20-foot strip of sand.
No. Right.
Right.
This is PCH, Malibu. You have to cross PCH, and Malibu is a big strip of sand, like at least from PCH, Pacific Coast Highway. You're talking at least in the most narrow parts, at least an acre in the most narrow parts, at least, and then wider.
The beaches that I, for years and years, as a former Angelean, removed tons of trash every Saturday for a decade, are just scorched. The houses are gone. Palisade High.
Which, by the way, is where they filmed Carrie, and in the movie, she burns it down.
Oh, is it?
Yes, gone. The beach beneath it, where I worked, just scorched. It's overwhelming. I think it's puerile to start pointing fingers and saying we didn't do this, we didn't do that.
Sure.
There many millions of people that have lived in an area that, sure, it's overpopulated. And now the question, Ted, Manila, is what to do. The insurance will be well, as I said at the top, Biden has said he would cover 150 billion. The insurance industry can't absorb that hit all at once, so the feds are going to step in.
Yeah, they already did. They issued an order. Well, I should say the state of California regulators have just issued a diktat that if you want to sell insurance of any kind, including health insurance or auto insurance in the state of California, you've got to issue, you can no longer stop issuing homeowners insurance policies, but there's no word on whether there would be any price controls on that,
Right.
just that they
Yeah.
have to issue the policies.
Right. Well, eventually what will have to happen is the states will have to become the insurers. And there's a number of Midwest agencies that have dropped off here. Our house got dropped in NorCal. They just said
Really?
that. Yeah. So that's coming. And on top of all of this, for goodness sakes, for heaven's sakes, 2024, Copernicus, the European equivalent of our NOAA, has issued an early statement saying that we have topped 1.6 2024. And here's the thing: 2023 and 2024 were the two hottest years in 125,000 years, and it hasn't even sunk into our psyche of what's going down. I can tell you this: on the other side, I read a horrendous piece, and I'll be releasing a piece shortly on the number of LN, liquid natural gas ports, the intake and outtake ports. There are hundreds under construction. In Gen emergency, I had mentioned there were some 200 underway 4 years ago. There's almost another 200, which means that the heat is just going to continue to go up and up. And enough. Uncle, mercy, whatever you want to
Dr.
say.
Reese, a couple questions here. I know I know a lot of people listening or watching, obviously with California having the biggest coastline of any state in the union, a lot of people are going to wonder, well, why can't these firefighting planes just go scoop up water from the Pacific Ocean and dump it there? How can California be out of water? Can you explain for us why using ocean salt water is not a viable solution?
Well, I did see some scoop, but I guess they don't want to put sodium onto the soil, I guess. And I guess we don't currently have a fire squad of enough scoopers.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, there's that.
any which way you slice it, the amount of fire retardant that's being dropped is so toxic, and it gets into
Oh,
the waterways, and all of the reptiles and amphibians that are down in the waterways and the little creeks, and they're done in. So it's just it's we have to come to terms with what we're doing, and the word enough comes to mind. Everybody, not everybody, but many of the big shots, if you ask them what their dreams are, this, that, or the other, they have one word which bugs the dickens out of me, and that's more. And Mother Earth is on bended knees. We're already using almost a couple Earth's worth of resources every year, and we cannot continue. And people don't want to hear that. The leaders are hooked into this GDP nonsense, which means that each year we have to take more from Mother Earth, and there's simply not that much more left. And people don't want to hear that, but I'm telling you, uh, I don't know anybody, Ted or Manila. I don't know anybody who revels in debt. And more equals debt. The more debt you have, the more stress you have, the less happiness, joy, and for shame, I use the word bliss. It's not there. So, I'm going to be a contrarian. What the hell? Eschew materialism and consumerism, and be kind, help the animals, help elders, do good things, not because you're going to be rewarded, but because it's the right thing.
It's the right, yeah, I was gonna say, it's just because it's the right thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. It has nothing to do with anyone's religion, or it's just the right thing to do is to be humane to everybody and be mindful of what we're doing. Because Dr. Reese, I'm reading that obviously, you've lived in California for many decades. I lived in California for many decades. Um, you and I both know that this this is not fire season. This is January. And people are saying, obviously, the conditions in California over the decades have changed due to climate change. And now our friends, our families are going to suffer year-round fires.
Yeah.
Is that the new norm?
Yeah, year-round fires, and it's not just California, it's Texas, it's the southern half of the United States.
Washington and Oregon, too.
Washington and Oregon. But, it also begs a bigger question, Ted, and that is water. Water is life. Life is water. And we are currently, if we're not sucking it for agriculture, for water wasting crops, we're fracking or we're mining, which means we're poisoning the groundwater. You don't need to be a physicist. You don't even need to be a high school graduate to understand that if you poison the stuff that we're made of, that we drink, that we eat, and we breathe, you're going to die a horrible death. What are we doing? It's absolutely out of control, and I for one I'm mortified. I'm going to say this: I'm mortified to be a human right this moment in time because we know what we're doing, and it's like who gives two hoots?
Well, I mean, the thing is, Dr. Reese, it's a doom loop, right? The question is, human beings are very adaptable little monkeys, right? And we're very, very smart at adjusting to changing conditions. By the way, just parenthetically speaking of, to sort of echo what you're saying about the weather changing in California, I was thinking about how the fog machine in San Francisco is no more, right?
Yeah.
That's a very strange phenomenon.
There's no fog in San Francisco
not
anymore?
Really. Mm-mm.
Very little, and the seasons
Wow.
have diminished. And by the way, the redwoods of the southern population in Santa Cruz is in strife because where there's fog, there's redwoods.
They need fog,
redwoods
yeah.
drink the sun moisture
Interesting.
out of the fog.
So the thing is, will we? So I guess the question is, I guess it's capitalism. We'll try to adapt, but wouldn't it be smarter to sort of avoid the doom loop and have more of a centrally planned kind of society, where we said, there's just certain places where people are no longer allowed
Yep.
to live in as high numbers. There's many places that would be more sustainable for Americans to move to, that are relatively, not populated,
Yeah.
and are just, have more water, for example.
Yeah.
Is that just impossible to reconcile with our economic and political system?
Yeah, worldwide. Sadly, it is. And I'd take it to the next level, Ted. I think the most precious thing we have left on planet Earth is wilderness. And my fantasy is that we get the under 31s activated and that they become the defenders and guardians of the wilderness, because without wilderness, we have nothing. And it really is as simple as that. And here's the thing. Yes, there's doom everywhere, and people more often than not want to look the other way or deliberately look the other way. But what you did say, Ted, is so true. We're very habitual. And most of this sociopathic consumptiveness is strictly habitual. So what you can do, each of us, is refuse to partake, refuse to do things that harm the planet. That just the other day, as of many articles that have come forth, but in Science, there was an article that says those that eat plant a lot of plants, preferably plant-based diet. But if you're an omnivore, but you still eat a lot of different kinds of plants, your health and your gut bacteria is 1,000 million times better than not. And so my point is, make an effort to switch to plant-based. This animal agriculture is so hard. It's water consumptive. It's the poo is leaking into everything, and the amount of food, the grass that the animals have to eat in order to get a pound of beef is ridiculous, and it's just not going to fly. Although we are adding an extraordinary amount of humans and cattle. I think a couple 100,000 by memory. I think it's 220,000 new humans a day, and it's 177,000 cattle a day to the planet. It's not working. It's not going to work. So don't partake.
But doctor, don't we have like? I mean, isn't it like? Does to like no matter what we do as individuals, right? I mean, let's just say you can, let's just all stipulate that there's obvious things that we could do. I'm not sure that's 100% true. But like, let's just say that we all know the list of say 5 things that we should all do in terms of our lifestyles to change our lives and help the planet. We're only going to get 10% or 20% of the public to do it, right? I mean, don't these changes need to come from the governmental and policy level? Shouldn't we be pressuring our political leaders and our corporate leaders to change it up? I mean, even if it's just like say one giant corporation, pick one, 3M, GM, whatever,
Right.
they decide they make a big change, that's going to have a huge impact more than whether I recycle or I eat more kale.
Right. Well, if you can, but money talks and BS walks. And so here's the thing. Now we know that K Street is running the show near your town or in your town.
Sure.
And the wee people on Main Street have to swallow this 2.4 trillion new tax cut to the uber wealthy. And it's like, we don't matter. But I'm saying it's a do or die situation. Either sit there and watch the whole house of cards go, or do something, anything. And the point is, we are powerful, each of us. And when we band together, in my opinion, we're unstoppable. You got to try something.
Well, I agree if we band together. The question is, but we don't have like a, we don't have, I mean, there's no political opposition to the system in this country at all.
Well, that's true. That's from anybody, anywhere. And Dr. Reese, Ted brought this up yesterday, and I said it'll probably never happen. But he says, what about just, that this might be the thing that depopulates California because it's such a populous state. We've pushed out the wildlife. And now these fires, now you can't get insurance for it. Will this be the thing to finally drive some homeowners out of California into other places? And is there any chance, or do you think there's enough wealth in California that people are just going to continue to flock there, rebuild there, and continue to build in the hills and continue to push I used to go hiking all the time regularly. Well, I guess it's at Griffith Park in the canyons there. And then the people started freaking out when the bobcats and mountain lions started returning to the area.
I know.
But I would go there knowing that I'm entering their habitat. So there were people that were stupid enough to say, well, we need to, add more houses in that area. It'll scare off the cats. And I went, do you not understand? Like, these canyons are their homes, and I'm hiking through at my own risk. But what do you think? Do the fires drive people out, or are people finally going to give up?
No, money talks and bullshit walks. And no, this is the time where I'm going to swipe something. I don't mean to, but the whole deal now is the worshiping of the golden calf. And he who has the gold rules, and everybody wants the gold. and it's a headless horseman. We're heading into apocalyptic times. I mean, it is Look,
It is apocalyptic. This is the apocalypse.
yeah,
California is a
look at Maui. Look what happened.
Yeah.
We didn't learn butt kiss
Nothing.
from that.
Well,
We haven't
people are
learned
also-
anything from the year of floods.
And people are really good at self-denial, you know. I mean,
Yes.
people. I mean, look, forget about the wildfires, which, if you know, there's always been fires. They're getting worse and bigger, of course. But you know, those same people lived, you know, with the risk of earthquakes for years,
Right.
mudslides. I mean, California is kind of, you know, very dangerous place to live, and all these rich people choose to live there because they like the weather. But I used to live in the Hamptons, and and you know, I remember one time just noticing, you know, every time you enter a town in like East Hampton or Southampton, it'll say like settled 1630, settled 1620. And then you look around and you're like, you know what there isn't in a town, in a place that's that old? There's no historical buildings, right? There's no historical house museums.
I know.
There's only one place where there are: Sag Harbor. Keyword, harbor. Right? So what happened to all the old houses from 17 whatever? It's like, well, they all blew away in hurricanes, okay? All of them. They're all gone. So when you live in the Hamptons, if you have any brains, you're like, my beach house is kind of a loner. It's kind of temporary. Like, nature's letting me have it. It won't be here forever. It's not going to be, like, my grandkids won't be in this house. Right.
Well, same thing for Florida or the Gulf Coast.
And I think that's like what people they need to start like internalizing that, because that's reality.
Yeah, it's super tough. It's there isn't a wand that can fix this. Sadly, it's just going to be more and more carnage. I have for years, and I don't take claim because it's shameful. But I have dubbed this era the age of agony. The animals have been agonizing for a couple hundred years, probably a couple thousand. But now the human race is beginning to agonize, and it's not on one continent. It is everywhere. And we refuse to, you know, failing to plan is planning to fail. And I've been LARPing on this for decades. And, but there's no money. So the thing of all this is, unless somebody can be a trillionaire from the plan, people don't, it's like, yeah, whatever, whatever. Some long-haired old guy is LARPing on, what we could do or should do. And that's super sad, because we are like the honeybees. We have the ability to respond. We're top-down learners, so we don't have to react. We can respond, and it's amazing that honeybees are the same. They're top-down learners. And somehow it's become too easy. It's also, as you both know, very frightening with the amount of deliberate and misinformation that everyone is faced with now. And so many people are ill-equipped to even understand what to do, never mind that they don't have a plan.
Well, certainly California's leaders have not had much of a plan, because environmentally speaking, if they had thought about environmentally how to conserve water, some of these fires might have been put out, especially the ones in the suburbs, right? Where the fire hydrants have been tapped out, and it's just crazy. Had they better planned, water reservoirs and how to conserve water, but that takes planning, like you said, Dr. Reese, and nobody wants to do that.
Well,
what a drag.
It's the fifth biggest economy on planet Earth. So if you're trying to grow the fifth biggest economy, the infrastructure alone is overwhelming. Guys, you're going to laugh or otherwise. I got 20 yards of redwood chips coming in. I'm going to love you and leave you right now. Here's my dump truck.
We love you, Dr.
All right.
Reese. Thank you
they
so
don't
much.
burn up. All right.
All right.
Yes.
Be good. See ya.
Thank you, Dr. Reese.
Bye, Dr.
Bye.
Reese. Have a good weekend. All right, so that was funny. I gotta
Yeah,
say,
he's like, I gotta go. I got redwood chips coming.
I mean, Manila, I got a question for you about this. I mean, do you think? I mean, I have heard whenever there's issues, for example, and it's been usually on a much smaller scale. For example, people losing their houses being washed away in the North Carolina Outer Banks and places like that, and people say like, well, you chose to live in a place like that. You had to know what happened, and like, so why should the Army Corps of Engineers like build why should they spend money, taxpayer money, to build a sandbar to protect you or whatever? Here you have a situation that actually does have a major economic impact. Do you think there could be regional resentments that could be exploited by politicians, by people to say like, I live in fucking North Dakota in a trailer, and I deal with, and no one's going to help me if a tornado blows me away. Fuck these rich people and their $5 million house in Malibu. They can eat shit and die.
That's not everybody. Let me just say, like that. There's
I know
a lot
it's
of rich people,
but I mean, that's the thing.
That's not everybody there.
That's the thing about this scapegoating. Yeah, a lot of people. Let's be clear here. Southern California and Los Angeles metro area has incredibly high poverty rate, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of poor people there.
The vast majority of Californians, or let's narrow it down to Angelenos. The vast majority of Angelenos, we're talking like 60+%, are like it reflects the rest of America that are living paycheck to paycheck, that are a $400, like busted rim and tire away from disaster, right? Because and then like they're like everybody else, because it's so expensive to live in California.
And the wages aren't that great for most people.
No, like people can hardly afford to live there. That's why like 20 people are piled into one house, right? Like you have like multiple roommates because no one can afford to live anywhere. So let's make that part clear. And there are many, many, many condos and apartment buildings that have also burnt down. And when you think of the Palisades, like, yeah, sure, you're hearing about, James Woods' house burnt down, or Paris Hilton's Malibu beach house burnt down. Yes, those people all live there, and that's why the world's attention is looking over there, right? Because of the beautiful, shiny people that are there. But there's the tens and tens and tens of other thousands of people who are right now evacuated from their homes, that are normal people, normal working class people that are just living. And some of these people, for example, in Altadena, that's it used to be very rural. And it was only starting to not be rural 20 plus years ago when I was in college in that area in Burbank and Pasadena. But people still had like small farms in Altadena. Those are people that have been there multi-generationally, up in the Angeles National Forest area. Like it backs up to the forest. That's where you see those stories of like mountain lions coming down and scooping up your dog, or a bear going swimming in your pool,
or scooping up a jogger,
or that's Altadena. That's where you see that news, because it backs up right to the Angeles National Forest. And those people are, they might be real estate rich today, but generally speaking, the people that live there have been handed down the homes. People have lived there for many, many generations. So the vast majority of the people that are impacted by these fires are not the Paris Hiltons of California.
No, that's for sure
so
true.
There needs to be it's the vast majority. So there needs to be a little more sympathy for these people. The way,
although I gotta say, ironically here, this is one of those rare natural disasters that disproportionately affects wealthier people more than poor people.
Well, in Palisades,
to live in the hills is more expensive.
In the Palisades
and in the canyons,
and Malibu.
That's prime real estate. Malibu, that's prime real estate.
Malibu and the Palisades,
prime real estate.
But there are some
in
California,
that are small, when you live
houses
in the
that have been there.
You're where the fires aren't. You're probably not as it's poor.
I'm from the east. I'm from Whittier. It's at the East LA border, Whittier Boulevard, famed Whittier Boulevard with the lowriders.
You're not way out in the dirt.
I'm not. Yeah. So I'm not out there in the hills, like where I'm from, and my extended family, that's all still out there. We're not up in the wealthy parts of town where this is happening. But still, there are also working class families that when Malibu, before it was established, was like little
Here's the thing. I kind of wonder if
town away from Los Angeles. That was the whole point of Malibu.
I mean, I think maybe, like one solution here is to say, like, sort of like, if your house burned down in a wildfire, the insurance company will pay for it, but they're never going to cover you again. Like that plot of land, if you build something on it, that's on you. Maybe that's the solution.
People got to take the risk, and the people with the money will continue to do that. And what's going to happen here, I'm afraid, is that the thousands of people that had their homeowners, maybe if not their entire policy, at least the fire coverage canceled. I'm afraid what's going to happen here is they're going to get exploited by other wealthy people that have been waiting to get those plots of land.
Oh, they will.
Just like in Lahaina, just like, you see, like
that is what's going to happen. Yeah.
That's exactly what's going to happen. And so, furthering the have and have nots, the disparity in Los Angeles.
Manila, I will convince you of this. The only solution is a communist revolution to overthrow all the rich people and take it over and have everyone live as equals, as brothers, as sisters. That's the only way.
I used to believe in that. On paper, it sounds great, but then there's always government corruption. So
always.
I don't.
The thing about capitalism versus socialism is that they both have ideals. They both get corrupted from those ideals. But at least socialism starts with a real ideal. Socialism starts with an ideal that can be corrupted. Which is, basically we're all equal. Capitalism starts with the ideal that is already corrupt, which is that I deserve to have more than you because I like me better than I like you. That's bullshit.
Because I can do this. Yeah, like I'm a soft capitalist, and I believe some people bring more value to this planet than others, and they have more. I'm not saying their lives. I'm not saying their lives are not worth it. I'm not saying that. No. I'm not saying that their lives are less valuable as humans. I'm saying if you have the ability to do X, Y, Z, like you have the brains to do this, then why should you live equally as some fuckwit that doesn't have any smart two brain cells to rub together? You're saying the neurosurgeon should be equal to some fuckwit that it just wants to sit around playing Xbox all day.
They are equal.
They're equal as humans. Equal as humans.
They're both human beings, and therefore they deserve the same thing. Well, here's my answer to you. If you're like, well, no one would ever become a neurosurgeon if they didn't get paid more. Bullshit. If everyone got paid exactly the same amount, people would rather be neurosurgeons than like asbestos removal workers. Okay, that's just true. People in the Soviet Union, everyone earned the same
ability,
but people still wanted to strive for jobs that
there's
were
going to be
more fun, more challenging, more interesting.
But my fundamental reason for not being a communist, not being a hard socialist like I thought I was in my teens and 20s, was before I got out into the working world and learned more about politics, like the actual, by the time I got to college, and then learned about this magical man, Ron Paul, and I realized how the government actually functioned. And I dug more into, like, for example, the Lao government and the communist revolution there. And no matter what, it's a corrupt government, no matter which way you look at it. Anyway, we're really deviating from
we are.
The main topic.
And we should wrap it up.
But the fire thing, this, like, there has to be something there that there needs to be some government intervention there to prevent that exploitation. Because I'm not a small government. I'm not a big government person, but I'm not a teeny tiny like producer Robbie, where I want a government so small as he says that he can flush down the toilet, right?
That's getting flushed down the toilet by itself anyway.
They don't need any help with that. But there needs to be, when the government does intervene, it needs to be in places like this to protect the people. But instead, we do have a government that seems to be exploiting its people and using us only as tax mules. And we're not getting the benefits of this. And they're shipping off our money everywhere else. Instead of, like, in California, like, what the hell is Gavin Newsom doing with all the tax money? Like, it's the highest tax state in the entire union. Like, it's just, I mean, that's part of the reason I accepted the job with RT America, rather than go back to California. I was in Arizona at the time, but rather than move back home to California, I thought, well, cost of living.
No, the cost of living is brutal, but the taxes are
I-
least. The taxes are the least of your problems when you live in California. It's housing
It's
prices
everything.
that are killing.
Yeah.
That's,
Yes.
I mean, like you will
Everything.
never own a house if you live in LA.
You just can't.
It's like,
Right. If you didn't buy 30 years ago,
for
you're
$1 million underneath the I-10. You know,
Ted, I can show you some ridiculous hood properties that are going for hovering in the $750,000 range.
I believe you.
Broken down pieces of shit townhouse, broken down, no air conditioning. Like crackheads that have lived next door are still there because they've been there for, grandma bought the house in the late 70s and they're still there. You want a 3-bedroom house in California? I can show you one for under $1 million. Here it is. And it's like,
and soon it'll be on fire. So there's
you can't live there in California. That's why I chose to come out here to the DC Metro. Not that it's a lot cheaper, but it's a little bit cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. It's not cheap. But it's a lot cheaper.
It's not cheap.
It's not cheap.
Correct.
New
but
York
a lot
is
cheaper than where I came from.
Than like, say, San Jose metro area. It is. I mean,
New York City?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't afford to live in San Francisco, let's say. There's no way. I mean, I pay $5,000 a month for my apartment here. I could never get anything like that in San Francisco. There's no way. I mean,
that's cheaper than.
Oh, yeah. No, this apartment in San Francisco would probably be close to 9 or 10. Yeah.
Oh my God. I see, but that's my whole point. And then people are just being driven out in droves, and then the policies, businesses are jumping ship in California. You see Elon Musk taking everything out to, Texas, and even like people like Joe Rogan, like moving his podcast out because people are like, you know what, this is a sinking ship. Well, I'm out of here.
Joe Rogan is definitely can afford to live anywhere he wants, but honestly, just for the trouble.
That's Spotify dough.
Just for the trouble. Even Paris Hilton, it's not fun for her to have to deal with her house burning down and all her shit's gone, and it's a pain in her ass. It's going to take over her life now for a while.
She'll be fine.
I'm not someone who normally, spends a lot of time worrying about the problems of the wealthy. I'm just saying that there's a strong motivation, even for people who are super wealthy, to be like, this is more nonsense than I need in my life. I'll live somewhere else.
Right. Especially if it's like not their regular home. When you're talking about Paris Hilton, that's just her beach house.
Especially if it's their regular home, all the more reason to leave, because then you're based there. Everything's there.
Right.
Your kids live there. Your
kids' pictures, all your, the first handprint in the clay,
you run out in the middle of the night. You can't, your house is on fire. You can't, the cat's hiding, the cat burns up. That's not fun,
No, it's gone. So it's just something people got to consider, and it's everything all around, not only the actual threat from Mother Nature in California. Earthquakes are not fun, let me tell you. And then you got the fires year round. The cost of living there is just incredible. And then now you got insurance that's not going to back you up. So you're screwed. If you're a regular person, you're screwed in California. And Gavin Newsom doesn't seem to care. We keep electing the same idiots over and over, increasingly idiotic. So, California's, I'm going to say it, going to hell in a handbasket or in a Gucci bag, Ted. Going to hell in a Gucci bag. We go out in style.
With California. A poodle inside. All right.
Have a good weekend, everybody, because, go out in that Gucci bag, everybody. That's life in California. But yeah, I'm still praying for my friends and family, because many of them, like I said, I went to college, Ted, where the Eaton fire is, in Burbank and in the Pasadena area. So I do know a lot of people that are getting evacuated. So, this is touch and go for friends and family out there. I don't know the wealthy people in Malibu and the Pacific Palisades. I don't know them, but I know the regular.
I know some of them. Yeah.
I know many of the regular people on the east side of town. So unlike New York,
I know some of them too.
Unlike New York, you guys, the rich people, are on the Upper East, right?
Anywhere in Manhattan south of 96th Street is very expensive now.
Oh, okay. When I was a kid, I just remember thinking, oh, okay, like from the Jeffersons, like moving on up
to a deluxe apartment in the sky.
but to the east side. That's
Yeah,
how I remembered it. They
that's
moved
right.
up to the east
Yeah,
side.
the west side is the same as the east side now. Yeah.
Oh, well.
The east side's a little more. It's a little dowdier, safer maybe. But it's not. It's no cheaper, or it's no more expensive really.
Well, in LA, up until the past decade, the Northeast was considerably cheaper. Like 10 or 12 years ago, you could still, regular working class people could still buy homes 10, 12, 15 years ago. And slowly the prices have crept up. The west side has always been very expensive. That's where all the rich people live, Santa Monica, out towards water, all of that. Regular people were pushed east towards where the hill fires are right now. And now those prices are way up. So, for us now, everywhere in California is expensive. So anyway, with that, have a great weekend, everybody. We're going to bring this thing to a close. Please be sure to subscribe. If you are on YouTube, hit that red subscribe button. If you are on Rumble, we ask, please, if you can, become a paid monthly subscriber for just $5 a month so we can keep doing this show for you. If you guys are enjoying what you're seeing and you enjoy this and you want us to continue to be able to provide this fun news and infotainment. Ted, is that what we are? Infotainment.
We try to be infotainment. We try to tame as much taming as possible.
We try to tame. And we are trying to remain fully independent. We can only do that with viewer support. So please click on that button and support us in any way you can. And if that just means subscribing, so we hit our monetization goals, then please click that sub button. So that's going to do it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, producer Robbie. Ted, have a great weekend, everybody. We'll be back.
Bye, Manila. Thank you. Thanks, Robbie.
Monday. There's no holidays, right? No.
We're holiday free.
Okay. Yeah. Now
MLK
the year starts.
Day is going to be coming up soon, which is also Inauguration Day.
Oh, and yeah. We'll be seeing you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Adios, amigos.
Bye.